The dramatic events of the past few days have again propelled Egypt to the top of the international headlines, and we're seeing scenes of millions of people celebrating the overthrow, not this time of a 30 years long dictator, but this time of Egypt's first elected president, who had been only 1 year in office. There are some similarities with February 2011. A wide array of different groups came out in defiance of the president and pushed the military to ultimately make the decisive intervention and force him to step down. But of course, things are different now. This was an elected president, and his supporters are not going to go away and are not going to give up. In his year in office, a sense that Mohamed Morsi was increasingly repeating autocratic patterns of the past caused his popularity to be eroded, and meant that there was a diverse array of opposition to him, uniting secularists, liberals, leftists, but also more conservative or more radical Islamists, Salafists, for example, with remnants of the previous regime. So you've seen a huge force come together to unseat the president, but they don't represent a coherent new political force. And it's likely now that we'll see months, if not years, of fairly weak governments under the rubric of national unity, trying to represent what is increasingly a very fragmented political scene. These different groups are in some ways celebrating very different things today. You'll see some people who are celebrating essentially the restoration of military rule, at least for the time being. The military has suspended the constitution. It said there will be new elections, but it hasn't yet set a date. And there will be those, including some of the wealthiest Egyptians, who say, good, this is a return to stability and a return to a known quantity. And indeed, the country's stock market went up today, seemingly a vote for military stability. At the same time, you're seeing young revolutionaries, radicals, leftists, trade unions saying this is not a restoration of military rule, this is the second phase of the revolution. So very different perceptions of what's really at stake. And in the broader region too, we're seeing a very positive reaction from authoritarian governments all around the place who are glad to see that the Muslim Brotherhood has been, at least for now, seemingly defeated, or at least dealt a serious blow. And yet they should also be concerned at the sight of another mass mobilization proving to be a major factor in Arab politics. Interestingly, we've seen two very different characters be among the first prominent figures from the Arab world to congratulate the new Egypt. The foreign minister of the UAE seems to have been the first Arab official to congratulate Egypt, tweeting Mabruk al Dunya, or congratulations to the mother of the world, a nickname for Egypt, last night. His country has just convicted over 60 suspected Islamist dissidents who have been charged with trying to change the system of government over there. So they will be glad to see the Brotherhood brought down in Egypt. But at the same time, theirs is a country that doesn't permit public protests. Meanwhile, President Bashar Assad of Syria has been delighted to see that Morsi has been overthrown before he himself has been. And he has been crowing rather implausibly that this is the end of political Islam. But for him too, there should be things to be worried about. Secular dictators like Bashar Assad have spent many years saying that Islamists are the big bad bogeymen, that there is no real other choice for the people except a secular dictator or an Islamist tyranny. If Egypt manages to find another way forward, which is still a big if it can get out of this military-dominated transition and find something more democratic, it is going to remain an inspiration to people across the wider region.